Cock Lane Ghost. The Cock Lane Ghost is a reported haunting that attracted mass public attention in 1762. The location was in an apartment on Cock Lane, the short lane adjacent of London's Smithfield Market, and a few minutes' walk from St. Paul's Cathedral. The event centered on three people: William Kent, a usurer from Norfolk; Richard Parsons, a parish clerk; and Elizabeth Parsons, Richard Parsons' daughter. Kent's wife, Elizabeth Lymes, was the daughter of a grocer from Lymeham. They moved to Stoke Ferry, where Kent kept an inn, and later the local post office. They were apparently much in love. Their marriage was short-lived, as within a month Elizabeth Lymes died during childbirth. During her pregnancy, Elizabeth's sister Franny had moved in with the couple in order to stay and care for the infant. The baby didn't survive long after Elizabeth's death, and Kent became romantically involved with Franny, but canon-law prevented them from getting married. After traveling to London seeking advice, Kent was told that Elizabeth had borne him a living son. A union with Franny was impossible. Nevertheless, in January of 1759, Kent gave up the post office, left Franny, and moved to London, intending to purchase a place, and in the hope that business would erase the passion he had for Franny. Meanwhile, Franny stayed with one of her brothers in Lymeham. Despite her family's disapproval of the relationship, Franny began to write passionate letters to Kent. Letters filled with repeated entreaties about spending the rest of their lives together. He eventually allowed her to join him in East Greenwich, near London. The two decided to live together as man and wife, writing wills in each other's favor, but also hoping to remain discreet. They moved into lodgings near Mansion House, but their landlord there may have learned of their relationship from Franny's family. Cock Lane was then owned by Parsons, and he was a landlord of Kent's and Franny's for a short time. While at Cock Lane, several accounts of strange knocking sounds and ghostly apparitions were reported, although they stopped after the couple moved out. While Kent was away at a wedding in the country, the first reports of strange noises began. Parsons had a wife and two daughters. Kent asked the oldest, Elizabeth, to stay with Franny and share her bed while he was away. Franny was several months pregnant by this time. The two reported hearing scratching and rapping noises. These were attributed by Mrs. Parsons to a neighboring cobbler. When the noises reoccurred the following Sunday, Franny asked if the cobbler was working that day, and Mrs. Parsons told her that he wasn't. The landlord of a neighboring public house, after visiting the house, reported seeing a white-figured ghost ascending the stairs to the house. Frightened, he returned home, and Parsons later visited him, claiming to see a ghost also. With weeks away of Franny's giving birth, Kent made arrangements to move to a property at Bartlett Court in Clerkenwell. By January, the property wasn't ready, so they moved to an inconvenient apartment nearby intending only to stay for a short while. But by the end of January, Franny fell ill. The attending doctor diagnosed the illness as early stages of an erupted fever and agreed with Kent that their lodgings were inadequate for someone in so critical a stage of pregnancy. Franny was thereby moved by coach to Bartlett Court. The next day, Franny's doctor returned and met with her apothecary. Both agreed that Franny's symptoms were indicative of smallpox. On hearing this, Franny called for an attorney, making sure that her will was in order and that Kent would inherit her estate. An acquaintance of Kent's, Steve Aldridge, rector of St. John's, Clerkenwell, reassured her that she would be forgiven for her sins, and she died in February. Fearful of buying a coffin for Franny out of fear for prosecution if the true nature of their relationship became known, Kent asked that the purchase be made nameless. On registering the burial, though, he was forced to give a name, and gave her name. Franny's family was notified, and her sister Ann Lines, who lived nearby, attended the funeral at St. John's. When Ann found out that in Franny's will she and her family would only receive a crown each, and Kent would receive the rest, including Franny's share of their dead brother's estate, Ann attempted to block Franny's will in Doctors' Commons and failed. Because of the dispute, though, legal problems over land owned by Franny's deceased brother occurred. Following Franny's death and Kent's successful legal action against Parson over an outstanding debt, the hauntings resumed at Cock Lane. Parsons claimed that Franny's ghost haunted his property, and later his daughter. Regular seances were held, and a ghost would appear claiming that Franny had been poisoned with arsenic, and Kent was publicly suspected of being her murderer. Because of the dispute with Franny's family and her deceased brother's property, each of her brother's beneficiaries had to pay compensation to the purchaser. Kent refused to pay, claiming that he had already spent the money paying off Franny's debts. In October, John Lines began legal proceedings against Kent in the Court of Chancery. Meanwhile, Kent became a stockbroker and remarried.